It is time once again for the weekly closes of our favorite Bitcoin miners. But before we get going, check out the channel memberships, especially that stalagmite level where you get the real-time trade posts and members only videos where you see exactly how I am managing this market today. And it is a tough one, I tell you, especially November. It was a really, really rough one. Go ahead and smash that like button before we get going here. Share this video for anybody that you think needs to see it. Helps grow the channel. We're really close to 10,000 subscribers. I'm so close. Help us get there. Let's go ahead and start with CleanSpark. So CleanSpark had a mega week. I probably should have been buying CleanSpark instead of Mara last week. Look at this thing. It was up 55% last week. That's huge. So we came down to the 200-week moving average, which is generally where you see this thing kind of either dip slightly below and or bounce off of. It looks like we chose the bounce off of method this time around. We came all the way back up to the 9-week here and rejected a little bit. So we might come back down to the 20-week at 13.18 and then continue on from there unless CleanSpark gets some really big AI news. I'm assuming a lot of this came from the new Genesis news that the US is basically completely set on being #1 in AI, and CleanSpark has untapped power for AI potential. So I think that's why we saw that this week. We also see that the week finally went light red here on the BX trender. You can also see that the RSI on the weekly came back up above 50 for the week. The other thing I'm watching here is stochastics. You'll notice that I've got another set of stochastics here at the bottom of the screen now. So I've got two sets of stochastics. I got the 44, so 40K, 14K, 3D, and then I got the 60-10 and 9-3 on the bottom there. So it's basically just two slow and two fast oscillators. Basically, when they're all four near the bottom, like they were right here on September 8th, that was an indication that it was going to go higher. And then when we got most near the top here, not all of them, but most of them near the top here, and we got those ugly candles on October, we knew it was going to come down. And right now, kind of no man's land a little bit here, but potentially could see if we see it continue. These will pinch and it'll look like it'll go higher. Or like exactly like back here on April 7th, you can see they're all kind of near the lows, and we started to get a rotation of 3, and then that fourth one kicked in right here on April 21st, and then we just started going up from there for a while. So that's why I added that. It's just a little extra layer of momentum. Anyways, CleanSpark looking pretty good, and I think that they mentioned in their report recently that they're going to be pursuing other avenues of compute, not just Bitcoin. Basically saying they are pivoting to AI for sure, and they've just been pounding that drum again and again. And if this is anything like last time, we got a nice big 50-ish plus % bar. We could see it this next week. We could see continuation. Now the only thing that's really driving this for me, thinking that this is potentially going to be a continuation versus it feeding back to the 20-week, is the fact that we got some pretty significant volume here. Look at this volume node. It's way bigger than the others. And let me bring this on here. Yeah, so the only thing we really need to do is get over 1650. Over 1650, yeah, CleanSpark looks like it wants to move. It's making me a little bit upset about selling my warrants here. I sold them like high 50s and then high 40s. It's back in the high 50s again. If this thing plays out, potentially we could be seeing it back at the highs, maybe even higher here. Largely, I sold them because we'd come mostly to the end of the Bitcoin cycle, and I didn't feel like holding thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of CleanSpark warrants for years. So that's why I sold it, and I was still in profit, about 30%. So I took my 30% profit and walked away. So we'll see what this does look like. If it gets above the 9 here, yeah, I could see this pushing up to about $1, which would be what, a 40% move from there. Yeah, about a 60% move from there. So that's what I'm watching for that. I want to see it get above the 9 on here, and then I'd be looking for it to push higher. Otherwise, I'm not too interested. I might even just look at CleanSpark call options, maybe like $20 to $25 call options for mid next year. That's probably also something I'd be looking at. And of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. You got to do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and ultimately, you are responsible for your own risk, because investing is risky and you could lose it all. Let's move on to Mara for the weekly. So the weekly Mara went up 17%. We're kind of hanging out near this low here. One thing I will say that I like a little bit better about the Mara chart, and one thing I hate about the Mara chart, one, volume was super low on Mara, so they didn't get any significant buy-ins. That sucks. But we do have still have some significant room from where we are up to the 200-week moving average up there. Got about 27% before we hit the 200-week moving average right now, so that wouldn't be too bad for my calls. That'd be quite nice. We did get a deeper red on the BX. That sucks, but the RSI is turning around, and the stochastics here. If we look down at these stochastics, we can see that the two fast ones are about to pinch and move up. And last time we saw that was about right here, this area here in March, where we drove up. Where we drove up a good, what, 76% before we took break. And if we were to do that now, we'd be looking at, something about $17 or so. So which isn't too bad. So I'm watching that pretty carefully, pretty closely. I want to see next week. I want to see these slower ones start to pinch and come back. I want to see these fast ones turn yellow, and I want to see these slow ones slowly get closer together. And once we see that pinching motion, because we're at the bottom of the stochastic now, and once we see that pinching motion out of all four of those stochastics, I will be looking for this thing to move quickly up. Probably past this volume spike here, maybe up to this one here, about 19, maybe $20, maybe even to the mid 20s. That's what I'd be looking at for Mara. All right, take a look at Hive. Hive got wrecked there. Hive, I don't hate, hit the 50 week. It's getting smashed between the 50 and the 200. So I'd have to see it get above the 200 week, which is currently at 370, I want to say. Yeah, 370. I need to see it get back above 370 before I'd be interested in Hive, because right now it could compress in here for a while. Let me go ahead and can I pin it? Yeah. I want to see, because it could get pinned in between these two and just kind of go sideways until it eventually pops up or down. We don't know which way it would go, but if it's above the 200, I would say that pop is to the upside. If it gets beneath the 50, I'd say that pop would be to the downside in those scenarios for Hive. So I'm waiting. It's looking indecisive. I want to see it get above or below one of those moving averages to really tell me what it wants to do. Bitfarms, how's Bitfarms doing? Not too bad, actually. We hit the 20, nice reversion. We're right under the 9. So as soon as it's back above the 9, game on to potentially retake those highs from previous that were previously made up at about 663, which isn't bad. And if you look at the BX trender here, you can see we finally got a nice little green one there, a nice lime green one again here for Bitfarms. You can also see that we're about to get a three stochastic rotation here, and that fourth one will come soon after. But last time we got a 3 rotation was back here. When I called that double bottom. If you remember, when I called that double bottom, now that was the last time we got the rotation of the 3, not the 4th, but the 3, right? And like that second, you had about 2 weeks to get into it, and then it just kind of melted up and then took off. So potentially, I think this would go faster this time around. But yeah, looking for those 3 to pinch, rotate, and then looking for the highs on Bitfarms as well. ARBK, this one really didn't perform. If you remember, I was using some of my earnings from CANG to get into this one as it was coming down, and it just deflated all the way down. I don't know if these really small ones have much left in the tank, because unless Bitcoin starts making new highs, because a lot of people are saying the Bitcoin cycle is over, and it is looking a bit over. I am currently in Bitcoin long, looking for it to move up to anywhere between like 96 and 102, which is where I would expect it to struggle and find resistance. So I don't know if these weaker miners, these much smaller ones, would get that type of a pop from just a move back up to the 102, 96 to 102 range, maybe 105 range. I don't know if they'd get any love out of that. So personally, I am out. It's a little too risky for me, but we're at some significant lows here. It does seem like it's may want to create a base down here. It's created a base down here at this level, 23 cents in the past, in the low 20s in the past. The stochastics, if those start to rotate the other way, yeah, we could potentially see another pop up. But again, I think that that's very, very high risk at this point. I didn't think it was terribly high risk around like the 50 and the 9 here when I was getting into it, and then we started breaking the 20, and I was like, nope, never mind, I'm out. And then I sold for that loss, whatever loss that was, I took for that, and just let it bleed out from there. CAN. Same sort of scenario. I don't know if this is going to get much love unless Bitcoin really turns around here. So I really don't think personally that I'm in this one, aside from any runners I have left over from when I got that nice run up from 88 cents to 220. The stochastics, yeah, these stochastics, I'd have to see them turn over and rotate to get any sense that it might want to move up to give me that momentum backing a move, and it's just not getting that right now. Let's take a look at Soluna. Soluna is hanging out down here. It's making a base. I don't mind this, actually. I don't mind where it is right now on the 50-week moving average. As long as it doesn't lose the 50-week moving average, this could be a nice little place to build a Soluna position potentially, especially with Genesis coming and being announced, and it being a power portfolio company now, basically. RSI right at the 50 line. I would like to see this BX trender start to turn around. It is coming down pretty badly, and I don't like that. But we are kind of hitting the 50 and slamming into a wall there. And if these stochastics, if these faster stochastics start to show that they're going to give us that rotation of the 3, yeah, we could, and then eventually the 4, yeah, we could see this return to $5-6. I mean, look, this is what happened last time. It did that, and this is where one of the areas that we got in, right? Back here, we had the 1, 2, 3 of them rotated on September 2nd, right? By September 8th, the next week, we were already up significantly. It was already up. Just that next week, it was already up 57% with an ultimate high of 74% higher. Just in that 1 week. 2 weeks later, all of them were green, right? Oh, I'm sorry, 2 weeks later, all of them were green. All 4 were green, green on yellow. And it was popping and popping and popping. It just kept going. And then up here, you got the fastest one pinched right here on this big one, this big boy. We got a little relief bounce, and then the other 2 pinched, as you can see right here on October 27th down there on the stochastics, and that was your signal that it was going to go a lot further down. And right now, if we get the fastest one, the 9.3 and the 14.3, if those turn yellow, I would say we're probably going to return up to 245 to 250, and if the 44 turns green, yeah, even more, and if the 60-10 turns green, even more. So I'm watching Soluna for that. I might add to my Soluna bag again. I might look at that again. All right, let's take a look at HUT. How's HUT? HUT, not too bad, not too bad. So we hit the 20 reversion. We're popping up again. We're up 31% last week. Big trender looks good. Stochastics look like the fast ones are pinching and getting ready to go turn yellow. And the mid-speed one is looking like it's about ready to maybe in 2 weeks turn green. And that could be a continuation move. Personally, I would watch that 9 if I lost the 9 at $45, like right at 40. Wow. No, sorry, at 43.48. If I lost the 9 at 43.48, then I'd be a little concerned about it next week, and maybe it would want to revisit about 37. But if we can hold that 9 and give us some momentum into the week, yeah, I'd be looking at the highs, potentially at 57-ish or so for HUT, maybe higher. We'll see. Iren's not looking super good right now. The BX trender is telling us that the selling pressure has outweighed the buying pressure, and it is now red. We're in between the 20 and the 9 here, and we could do that kind of indefinitely until it makes a decision, right? We could just be sitting here doing this until it makes a decision, and above the 9, we break up. Below the 20, we break down. To the upside, we're looking at 75 of the highs, and that's where we'll struggle to find price discovery. And on the lows, we're looking at about 21.30 or so if things go really bad. Am I saying that's going to happen? No, but you got to be aware of these. Like if you lose the 20, things are going to get worse. If you take the 9, things are going to get better. That's basically all you need to take away from that right now. I'm watching the 9 and the 20 on the weekly. The BX trender says things aren't great, but that can flip next week. The RSI is still in bullish territory, so that could go against what we're saying here. But one thing I don't like is that these stochastics are pointing down and getting wider to the downside. So that is telling me that momentum isn't in favor of IREN, but it could go sideways. It could just go sideways. And it could do that sideways between the 9 and the 20. It could do this like sideways action indefinitely, honestly, until a catalyst says, all right, it's time to go higher, or a catalyst says, okay, it's time to go lower. It's trapped in between those two right now. So it's really indecisive. Nothing's been decided basically about IREN. Let's take a look at BitDeer. How's BitDeer? We came down to the 200 week, bounced pretty aggressively off that, up 30% on the week. The 50 though, I'd need to see it take the 50 week before I'd be interested, which is up at 1488. You can see that the BX Trender says selling pressure has been increasing, even though we got that 30% pop this week. The stochastics are starting to base out, but they are still going lower, and the RSI is in bearish territory. We did get stuck on this little volume node here, but we do have this one down here at $11 to catch us. So not a lot of potential loss here, but it does need to get above 1488, which is the 50-week moving average. It has to get above that up here for me to say these next few volume nodes above will be able to be hit at like $15.91 and $20. So that's all I got to say about BitDeer right now. What about Riot? How's Riot looking? Not too bad. Okay, so Riot, we can see that the fast stochastics look like they're ready to pinch and turn yellow. The mid-speed one looks like it's getting tighter, so that's good too. We're above the 20, so we hit the 50 perfectly. We closed above the 20. That's good. Well, we could push up to the 9 at about $18, $17.94. The RSI is bullish. The BX Trender is showing selling pressure is weakening. So yeah, that all looks good. We are stair stepping up. Look at this. Look at this stair step right here, right there, and then this final one right here. Boom, boom. All constantly higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. What's the next stop? Potentially a higher high, which would be above $24, right? Above, yeah, $24, and that would be pretty exciting for Riot. Especially since it came into this big volume node right here and we bounced off of that, and there's not much above it here. So yeah, Riot is actually looking really good right now. I'd be watching, targeting, honestly, if it could take the 9, if it doesn't struggle too bad at the 9, I would probably drill down to the daily on this, or even a 3-day. See what a 3-day looks like. Yeah, okay. Drill down to a 3-day. You can see that the mid one's about to pinch green, so we're going to get a three stochastic rotation here. And what I'd want to see is basically just hold, get above like 1648, hold that level, let that 9 start to scoop, assuming it doesn't happen all at once, like way too fast. And yeah, I'd look at Riot for a move back up to about $24. Let's look at the daily real quick. Oh yeah. So all three were down here. We have the 3 rotation, boom. We got that 4th rotation here on the 25th. And yeah, we got room up to the 50 there, about 1844. That's where we might run into some trouble here to get above it, like that 1844 to about 1930. And then from there, we push into the 20s if we can take it. And if we lose the 20 at 1579, well, then we start to worry about, is it going to come back down? So Riot is actually looking like a really nice little setup here. Okay, let's take a look at CIFR. CIFR is interesting. The fast are, oh yeah, CIFR is good there. 43% up on the week. BX Trender says buying pressure came back in last week in force. RSI is almost cooking back up at 70, but it can push as high as, the high 80s, low 90s. So don't be too discouraged by that idea. We are getting the fastest one turned yellow. The next fastest one is about to turn yellow next week. Oh, actually the 14 went turned yellow before the 9. Interesting. And we can also see that the 44 stochastic is also about ready to flip green. So yeah, I'd be targeting the high on CIFR. So on my low end, I'd be looking at 1770 as an area of, if it loses that, it's going to push down lower to maybe 1250 or so. And currently, I'd be looking for it to push up to about 2560, maybe push higher from there. For CIFR. So I'd be looking at that. CIFR, this is actually looking pretty constructive, and I'm sure that's largely due to AI. Let's take a look at Core Z. Core Z, similar sort of scenario, but stochastics say that this is either going to flatten out or go lower, and BX Trender says selling pressure is outweighing buying pressure, but the RSI is in bullish territory, but that's one versus multiple other momentum indicators saying not so fast. So I'd look at the 20. I'd watch the 20, 1611. Under 1611, I'd say it's going to come back down to the 50. Where it currently is trapped. It's going to end up being trapped in between the 9 at 1811 and the 20 at 1611. So just kind of like, again, like many others, we're going to be in this little zone until it either breaks above it and we're going to go back for the highs, or it breaks below it and we're going to come back to the 50. Maybe test it from below, maybe push lower. If we're lucky, we'll go above the top, test it from above and go higher, something like that. So it's Core Z looks indecisive currently. That's what I would say about it. About their warrants, same situation on their warrants. Nothing different there. What about Wolf? Wolf, 37% up last week. Looks like the only one that didn't do well last week was the one I picked, which was Bora. That upsets me. But anyways, we hit the 20, bounced off of that pretty good. BX Trender says we're looking good. RSI is starting to get overcooked, but not too badly. We got a dual rotation here on the stochastics, and we're about to get the mid-level one flip green. So I'd be targeting, again, I'm targeting the highs, 17, 10. Once we take those out, who knows? It could go higher, it could go lower. Well, once it's out over 1710, I'd be targeting, yeah, somewhere over here about 22, mid-20s, mid to low 20s. And on the downside, I'd be looking at 1337. If it loses 1337, well then the 20, I'd watch the 20 to catch it around 1048, which of course will be higher by the time that happens. And that would be kind of my game plan for, like, I'd cut it at the 9. If it loses the 9, I'd cut it there, wait for it to hit 20, see what it did, and go long or short depending on how it reacted to the 20-week moving average. Let's take a look at BT. Bit Digital. Not looking good. Not looking good at all. Selling pressure is getting worse. Stochastics are looking bad. RSI is also looking bad. It's hanging out below the 200-week moving average. This is, again, this is one I would watch, and I look for it to either break out above this area here, or here. So I'd be looking for it to, like, range between the 250 and like 160 or so range. I'd be looking at, that's a terrible line, but I'm looking for it to range there, and either it breaks out and breaks up or breaks down and things get worse. So Bit Digital, again, I'd be just sitting on my hands here for Bit Digital if that's what I was into. CANG, they're kind of an untested Bitcoin miner. They're new to the space, but the BX Trender is saying that the buying pressure or the selling pressure is weakening down here after hitting the 200-week moving average. The RSI almost hit that 30 level and is bouncing, and we are getting a dual rotation on the stochastics here, and it looks like the mid-range stochastic might want to turn around pretty soon. So this might actually be a play here. Again, on this one, I drill down to like the 3-day, and oh yeah, we got triple rotation down here. Okay, so I'd be interested in this actually. I'd be interested in CANG, and I'd be interested in it for maybe a move back to the 9-week at 185. Currently about 185, so I'd watch that, which would be the weekly 9, which is about 24%, or the 20-week, which is up here at about 215, which is 40-ish% from its current price. And honestly, my stop loss, I'd set my stop loss down at the 200-week moving average, which is about 9%. Let's call it 9%. Let's call it a solid 10, just for, because solid 10% down for a potential 24% up, maybe as much as a 42% up. So you're looking at a 2.5 or 4x return to your risk on CANG currently if you were to structure it in that way. Not too bad at all. And if we go to the daily, I bet you got all four. Yeah, all four rotated right here at the bottom. Boom. So yeah, we might see that go back up into the 2. CANG could be interesting. Maybe add that to the list this week. Of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever, because you got to do your own research, come to your own conclusions, and be responsible for your own risk, because investing is risky and you could lose it all. So you got to be sure that you're doing your own research there and coming to your own conclusions. Don't listen to just some guy on YouTube. You got to do more than that. That's not a plan. I'm sorry, but it's not a plan. I love that you're watching. And, continue doing so. But that's not a plan in itself. All right. Anyways. Okay. So BMNR, I just want to look at that real quick. BMNR, BX Trender says things are getting worse. We hit the 50 and the 200 week, and we bounce. That's good. The RSI is looking weak, but the stochastics are saying that they are looking like maybe we could see a rotation and a push back up to 54-ish or so. That would be great. I think it's probably similar with MSTR. It is decently similar with MSTR, except the fast ones are looking even worse because they're super wispy down here. So this could be like a move back up to like 256 and then a continuation down, just because that wispiness of these stochastics, like they're very weak. They're very weak looking. So I don't know about MSTR right now. Let's dig into Bitcoin real quick. So we'll do a real quick Bitcoin dig. 80 was the bottom. 80 was the bottom. I said that was the bottom. Now, it may not be the bottom, but it was the bottom of the pivot. It was the pivot point, I should say, the bottom pivot point. And we can see that the fast stochastics on the weekly, they're about ready to turn up and go higher. The selling pressure is getting worse, though. So I would not expect it. I would watch 96 very carefully, and I would watch 102 very carefully. Let's look at the 1 day. How's the 1 day doing? The fact that we came back up to the 20-day moving average and we keep touching it and going lower, that is bad. That sucks. That really sucks. Now, if we go back here to the bottom, I bought in like the day after around like 84 or so, and we got that quad rotation there. All four turned bullish there on the stochastics, and I really need to see the fastest one, the 9.3, stop slamming into a wall at the top here and continue higher to get us up to that 102. Otherwise, we're going to have a bad time. RSI is looking flat, but buying pressure on the daily is increasing on the BX trender. So we really just need to take that 20. We take this 20, we're going to likely hit the 50-day. And if we go like this and we extrapolate that out, that takes us actually to the 9-week, which is all the way up at about 105 if we got the full move of this bull flag. Now, this could also resolve to a bear flag. This one, which would be right here, right? This could resolve to a bear flag. And if it did, we would be watching 180 as a level, or sorry, not 180, but 80 as a level. And if we got below 80, then 75, under 75, 66. 66, I think, would probably be the ultimate bottom if it got there. And I would not be shy about buying it down there, to be honest, for me. Now, if we lose the 20, or if we take the 20, then I'm looking for like this structure here, boom, 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 and maybe hit the bottom of these candles over here, which is about 100 or so. That's probably an area I expect struggle. And then if we can get above the 50, maybe one more little sideways and then a little bit higher back up to 105, 110 before we have really hit the serious volume here at about 111. That could knock us all the way back down. So Bitcoin, we're really watching that very carefully right now. Currently at 91,000, but we've just been flat for days. And yeah, about 101, 102 is where we hit that next flag level. But we're currently getting held under the 20, and that's bad. That's bad news. The fact that we hit the 20 twice now and haven't broken through it, that is bad. If we lose the 9 down at 89,000, we're coming back down to 86. And that's just unfortunately how that's going to likely shake out in that scenario. All right, anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share this video. It helps so much to grow the channel. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. Help us get there. Check out the channel memberships, especially that stalagmite level, and have a profitable day.